Greetings, this is Sean, and today I'm going to be showing you two tools that I'm making, miniature planes and miniature chisels. This is for my Colonial American Carpenter shop. First I'm going to start off with the planes. I made these two little vice guards. They're just a 1/4-inch piece of wood, and I've got a couple of strong magnets that go on that I've embedded into them so that they'll stick to the jaws so that they won't ruin the wood as I'm clamping it in for what I'm going to do. Anyway, I'm measuring off a piece that is 1 inch long. That is 3 16-inch square dowel that I'm using. Turn the piece around, Sean. That's not how you cut a piece of wood. Yeah, that's better. Anyway, I'm just going to take a razor saw or a X-Acto blade saw, fine tooth saw, to cut this off. Could have done this in my miter box, but it didn't take very long. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I am going to use my very fine pointed chisel, that one that you see there, to cut a hole, a groove, a slot, whatever you want to call it, into the wood at an angle. This to represent the hole for the chisel blade itself. And I'm just tapping it down through very gently and kind of carving around it to make the slot. Tedious little process, but it comes together. Here I'm just marking the angle at which the hole is going in so I know which way to go from the bottom. So I'm kind of working from the top and the bottom at the same time. Just trying to poke the hole out. Here what I've done is I've got a coping saw blade that I've cut the nubs off of to try and get it down in there, because the chisel I'm using is skewed at only on one side, and so it doesn't cut a straight. It's not a straight cut. So I'm kind of using the saw blade to get in there as well to help cut the sides out a little bit better, a little bit straighter. You'll see. Gotta be able to get it to fit in there first, so I gotta make it a little bit wider. What I did was I kind of cut it at a point on it so it would finally fit in there. So now I'm just kind of rolling it back and forth to kind of cut the groove kind of a little bit straighter. And there's my sanding pen that I made that I'm using just to sand it flat. And that's basically the hole for the chisel. What I have there is just a piece of sheet metal, real thin sheet metal that I've cut. It's about 1/16 of an inch wide, and it's probably about 1/2 inch long. And this, what I'm doing is it's just a piece of scrap that I'm going to cut for a wedge to hold that piece of metal in place, so it would be to be adjustable. That didn't work as I planned, so I just decided the sandpaper actually helps to hold it so it doesn't move forward as I'm cutting, so I can leave my fingers and not have to hold it while I'm cutting so I don't cut myself. And basically I'm just chiseling out a wedge of wood to hold that little blade, which the piece of metal, of course, is acting like the chisel itself. And that's the basic plane right there. And what I've done though is I will add here in just a second a handle for it. Now that little punch thing that I have there, I have a doming block, and that's one of the punches for the doming block that I have. And I'm just making an indentation for the BB that I'm going to use for the handle. Just making a small impression for it to sit in. And I was about to glue it, and I thought, no, if I put that in there, it's going to get glued to the guards that I've got there, so I had to raise it up just a little bit so the glue wouldn't go onto it. Just a small spot of glue, drop in the BB, and then spray it with some accelerator. And there we have a chisel. Or, I'm sorry, a plane. Chisels are next. So, and I don't think I try to use it at all to see if it works, because it is very thin piece of metal and I didn't want to bend it or anything like that. And there's the first one I made. That's same stock. It's only 3/4 of an inch long. So the longer one would be equivalent to a foot long, and the smaller one is equivalent to about 9 inches long in length. So just to give you an idea if it were in real size. Now here I am making the chisels. I'm going to show you the longer one, which is a lathe chisel. The smaller one I made just to see how easy it would be to make, which I don't show being made here. I'm going to use a brad. This is a small 18 brad. It's 3/4 of an inch, or a ½ inch long. And I experimented different ways of doing this, and I found the best and easiest way was to hold it by the tip rather than the head. I was trying to use the head and then smashing the tip, but here I'm going to hit the head on it, and I should have cut the head off, but I've got a small jeweler's hammer that I'm just pounding against my vise top there to flatten it out to make the chisel for the tool. And this is what's known as cold forging, so yes, in a sense, this tool has been forged. I didn't have to use any heat though, because it is such a small thing, and I am hitting it pretty hard to make it work. But it does come out, and my equivalent of a belt sander is coming up here in a minute, which you'll see. There I'm the basic shape of it, and I kind of the head gets squashed in, so there's my belt sander. Pair of scissors. Make it nice and flat across the edge. And that's basically how I made the chisel head. There you can see it's about 1/8 of an inch wide once it's done, and it's about a ½ inch long. And so here I am. I'm going to be drilling a hole into it's a 2-inch long piece of 1/8 inch dowel. And I'm just going to use my pin vise for this, so I can go nice and slow, marking the center of it. And I'm starting off with a 1/32 inch drill bit as a pilot hole so I don't split the wood. And then I'll move up to, it's a 1/16 inch, which is just a little bit smaller than the brad itself. And right here I'm taking a wire just to see how deep it actually goes, which it was deep enough. So then all I have to do is just put that in, but I'm going to put a drop of super glue on it first. Actually, no. I'm going to be making a ferrule for it, which is the brass end of it, to hold it for a little bit more authenticity, I guess. Not that it's really ever going to be used. But here I'm just taking my wood chisel to shape down the end of it so that the ferrule will fit on to the end of it there. Remember, whenever using chisels or knives, always cut away from yourself. Don't cut towards yourself when you're using them. You could cut yourself, and that would not be good. So here I am just marking how long the ferrule is, and now the ferrule is just a piece of brass tubing. It's a 1/8 inch brass tube, so I just had to cut the diameter down a little bit. So I'm just marking around the edge of it there and scraping it down. tried doing it that way, but it was just too difficult to do. So break out the sandpaper. Remember, cut away from yourself. Don't cut towards yourself. But the way I was doing it, I was in no danger of being cut, in all honesty. And there it fits. So now what I'll do is I'll take some CA glue, and drop a little bit down on to the edges of it for the ferrule to sit in. I did spray the ferrule with some accelerator. And here I am. I'm just going to drop a little drop of CA glue down onto the hole so that the chisel will go inside of it, and that's how I made my chisel. I should have made that a little bit longer, which I ended up. Now I have some longer brads to make it a little bit longer one, but it works, and it actually did cut. I do actually end up sharpening it here in a minute, although it's not hardened, so it'll bend really easily and would have to be sharpened every single time I try to use it. But it actually did. I was able to put a little bit of an edge on it. I tried to zoom in and I just didn't get lined up right. But I actually am able to sharpen it. I even take out my leather strop. And now this is a little bamboo skewer, and you can kind of see it really does chisel off the wood. So I'm kind of happy that that worked. Anyway, that's how I made my lathe chisel, and I did make, like I said, a smaller one, and that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is a little bit bonus video for this week because these really didn't take that long to do. Each of the plane and the chisel both took me about 20 minutes to make from start to finish. So I decided to go ahead and make a second video for this week. Here you can kind of see the grind on the edge. I'm sharpening it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, have a better day, as I always say.